Okay, we were learning about Yosef HaTzadik and this fantastic chazal that when Yosef was born, Noilad Satanoi Satanoi Shel Yesod, the Medrash Rabbah says, that meaning that Yaakov Avinu was, besides for being sort of captured in the Beis Lavan and held captive there, he was also hiding in the Beis Lavan, and he was trying to, he was hiding from Esav, and the way the pasuk reads, that it was immediately when Yosef was born that Yaakov said, okay, let's get out of here, time to leave the Beis Lavan. And the Medrash says that it was the Leidas Yosef which redeemed him from the fear of Esav. And the reason for that is because Yaakov and Esav, we learned, were in two different worlds. It was a difficult, it's even difficult to compare. Yaakov was a Yosef Oalim, and Esav was an yesod. So Yosef Oalim, so Yaakov was very much osik with the pnimius, with the emes of Abraham and Yitzchak, but he wasn't a yesod. He wasn't mamish in the world, in the way Esav was. It wasn't in the world in the same way that Esav was. So you could say, well, Yaakov has got much more on the ball, and he's got much more kedusha, and much more das, and much more emes, teaching emes to Yaakov, and they even had the chesed and the gvur of Abraham and Yitzchak, but still it didn't permeate the world completely. So it wasn't. So Esav had one up on Yaakov, and that's what Yitzchak saw. Right? He's you're out there in the world. We can hear this, no? You can hear such a sorry, yeah, but he's he's out there. He's part of the world. He's getting it, and it seems to be b'chitzonius for him also. He was doing all the chitzonius things. So there's a certain, I'm thinking like could have like a big tzaddik or a big Rosh Yeshiva. So of course, he's most proud of his sons that are Rosh Yeshivas and big tzaddikim, but he's got this one guy out there who knows how to do stuff. He's the guy who gets his car, and he gets his house, and he gets, So there's also something, like you can rely on him. He's a bar samcha. So Yaakov Yitzchak rather had an Esav. But when Yosef was born, Rabbi Yaacov says, once Yosef was born, so then there was a satonoi Shel Esav, because Yosef Hayab in Mitzrayim. You want to see yesod? I'm the ultimate yesod. I'm mamish living in Mitzrayim, mamish living with in the house of Potiphar, and sunk lower and lower and lower. So when Yosef was born, Esav was redeemed. He said, Beis Yaakov Eish, Beis Yosef Lahava. Esav was the kash. There's a slow burn maybe on the Eish, but Lahava, where there's a strong flame, so that's consumed. So Yosef was the strong flame. This strong flame, in the lashon of the Mekubalim, is Yosef midos yesod. The taich of the Lahava of Yosef was midos yesod, because midos yesod is when you take all the esoterica and you permeate it into the earth. Everything's up there. It's all theory. It's all ivory tower, in a sense. It's all academic, until which point Yosef Hayab b'Mitzrayim. So that, taking the chesed, the gvura, tiferes, netzach, chod, and bringing it earthwise, is midos yesod. This is what we learned. It's not yet midos malchus. It's not where you've made a change, and this is really what we're going to discuss now. It's not really where you've made a change in the Aretz. We can't say that Yosef changed Mitzrayim. We can't say that, but we can say that he changed himself, and he withstood Mitzrayim, and he permeated Kedusha. He made Kedusha possible in a Mitzrayim, which is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is not to live in an incubator. The ultimate goal is to be Yosef Hayab b'Mitzrayim. But it's midos yesod.
He studied the Besmira.
What?
Would that be considered a community, the Bismillah Institute?
On some level, but it didn't change the world. That's on a personal level, but it doesn't change the world. So Yosef haya b'Mitzrayim. Okay, did it do something for Mitzrayim? It needed more. It needed all the brothers to come to Mitzrayim. It needed Klal Yisrael to come to Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim's still not a great place. But the midah, this is very important to understand, the midah of Yosef was midas ha-yesod. Midas ha-yesod doesn't change the Metzius on the ground. All right? Midas ha-yesod is where the heaven touches the earth. So there's a haschola of malchus, on the other hand, is when the whole earth, the whole earth has changed from that permeation. So it's tzemach Dovid abdecha meheres hatzmiach. So you have to have you put the seed in the ground, nothing happened. You plant a forest, 20 years later you have a forest. It changes the ground, changes the ecosystem, changes everything. But this is just midas ha-yesod. So that was Yosef. Dovid was a different madrega. Yosef Dovid. So let's just do his words inside. V'alkein, therefore Yosef, who satonoi shel Esav, he was the son of Esav. Uboy nemar, and about him does it say, Ho Elokim ani yoreh, that Yosef, in all Oifanim, even though he was in a really tricky position, was a Yiras Elokim. That's what it's all about. Because Yira is what works. You see, it's not. Just want to point out, like being out there in the world, which is not necessarily recommended because you're not supposed to put yourself in a malchus Messiah. I don't know if you're allowed to l'chatchila go move into the room with Ashes Potiphar. I don't know if it's recommended Jewish practice. But nevertheless, if you are in that position, your Shemayim is tested. But I think it's much deeper than being tested. I think it's like the Rambam says in his tshuva, that Eina tshuva gemura, what's lost there, Eina tshuva nigmaris, until he finds himself b'osa makam, b'osa isha, right? B'osa koach, lo b'kishlin koach. The Rambam says that when you're at exactly the same stage, that you're in the stage of the Avera, and you v'loyas Avera, loy mipnei akisha, loy mipnei ha'yira, loy mipnei, but ela mipnei, the Yir Shemayim shabai, the tshuva shabai, as the Rambam says. So that's tshuva gebura. So you're not supposed to put yourself in that position. The Rambam's not making a suggestion that a person goes back to the French Riviera and finds Oso Isha, Oso Baka, Oso Koach, and has the same wine. I don't think that's what the Rambam is suggesting here. But the suggestion is that your tshuva has to be such that it can withstand that exact same situation. If the only way to test it is by being there, so you've tested it by being there. But the idea is the tshuva has to be koach, the koach of tshuva has to be such that it makes that I'm a different person, right? So it's the same idea here that Yosef went to Mitzrayim. Trying to understand, Yosef went to Mitzrayim, so his Yir Shemayim blossomed in Mitzrayim. This time he came in with Yir Shemayim, and that's what allowed him to withstand. And it could be, this is what I'm trying to say, that the Mitzrayim itself was boosted the Yira. Because it's sometimes the resistance which brings out the Tov. Yahfכה. With me on that? So sometimes the resistance. Avol hu hapech Dovid. He's not a Dovid HaMelech. Yosef was not a Dovid HaMelech. Also, when it comes to Yosef, it's so interesting. When it comes to Yosef, son of Achiv, his brothers hated him. Shehem shivteya uklal Yisrael. Here's the king, but the king is hated. He was a hated king. Why was he hated? Because Because he spoke Lashon Hara. He was about Lashon Hara. He spoke Lashon Hara about, maybe he had a cheshbon, but so he spoke Lashon Hara about his brothers. And what do you do with a Baal Lashon Hara? Mishpata, what's his din? Lishtaleach mimachane Yisrael. You have to send him out of Klal Yisrael. Machane Yisrael at that time was the place of Yaakov Avinu. So they sent him out to Mitzrayim. You're a Mitzrayim. You're talking Lashon Hara. You're a Mitzrayim. We all heard as children already that there was a din. They passed a din on Yosef. What was the din? You're about Lashon Hara. You don't belong amongst us in Yaakov's house. Send him to Mitzrayim. Val came, and therefore le'eved nimkar le'Mitzrayim ervas ha'aretz. So he ended up being an eved in Mitzrayim. Malkom hazima. Malkom hazima means chutz l'machana, to go out of the kedusha. Shesham, and here's the knesh. But it was there, not just you're punished, get out of, stand in the hall, out of the classroom. You're not one of us any longer. No. Sham yisgala yisrein ha'or me'achoshech. It was there was a gilui of or of Yosef. It was there that Yosef began to shine in Mitzrayim. Ever think about this before? In other words, now that Yosef began to shine in Mitzrayim.
Flame only
Was that
in the dark.
Hmm?
Flame is better seen in the dark.
Yisrein ha'or me'achoshech.
Was that Yosef's tikkun?
But, right. So tikkun sounds like, okay, he spoke Lashon Hara, got to go to Mitzrayim, right? It's like going to jail.
Right.
But here we say something different, that tikkun, mamish, that Yosef became Yosef, the fulfillment of Yosef happened in Mitzrayim. Ki Yisrael ha'ar me'achoshech. What happened with that? Kedusha ma'ireres kedusha. He became a Kaddish in Mitzrayim. Kedusha ireres kedusha. So many times you see people that are tzaddikim in a very adverse situation. And it's unbelievable. They're heroes. Like
In the Holocaust.
people of the Holocaust, the former Soviet Union, even people that were so oppressed, and yet they withstood. And then you're finally, you take them out of that place and put them in Tel Aviv or something, and they're not thriving in the same way. Not necessarily suggesting they stay there, but they're not thriving in the same way. So sometimes it's Yisrael or b'da choshech. You need the choshech to create the or.
To reveal the or.
Right. And you wonder what happens when you take them out of the choshech. So Yosef haya b'Mitzrayim. From that, dafka from Mitzrayim, kedusha ireres kedusha, Yosef became more kadosh and more kadosh, and he really sunk. He went from the Binyanim to the Ishmaelim, from the Ishmaelim to the Mitzrayim, went down, from the Mitzrayim to the base Potiphar, from the base Potiphar to the base HaSohar. He really sunk. Possibly the base Paro was the worst of them all. But he went down. It was kedusha, ireres kedusha, she'achar kach hikeres alchiv, until he was able to go from being the guts of Rabbi Yaacov is to be this well. Until he was able to go from being a Baal Lashon Hara on his brothers to being a Baal Achva of his brothers. That's the kedusha Mitzrayim brought out of him. So we're always looking at the story, we're always reading the story, we're reading it that the brothers were doing tshuva. But the brothers were getting their tikkun, and Yosef was getting them their tikkun. You have to come to Mitzrayim. You have to bring Binyamin down to Mitzrayim. Yeah, that's all true. But at the same time, Yosef was also having a tikkun for being motzi diba on his brothers, the lashon hara on his brothers. Even Yaakov Avinu gave him musar. What are you telling you? We're going to bow down to you. And then for being with his father all the years, there was something wrong here also. There was something very human about Yosef. But Yosef had to go to Mitzrayim to get his tikkun. Even though he did stuff against his brothers when he was in Mitzrayim, that was already from Ahava. Because they needed a tikkun for the Bechira and for causing tsar to his fathers. But let me see the klal. But this is the key. Ubikol makom zacha liyos rak melech al goyim. He was only able to reach the madrega of being a melech for the goyim. For the goyim, he was a melech al goyim. He didn't become the Melech Yisrael, Yosef. Same thing. Chen Mashiach ben Yosef hirak lichbosh kol hagoyim b'milchama. It's military, meaning Kvisha, the Mashiach ben Yosef will win the wars for us. Mashiach ben Yosef will give us security. Mashiach ben Yosef will be out there b'tokef with the goyim. Mashiach ben Yosef will not necessarily be accepted as the Melech Yisrael. See it b'yameinu. See it b'yameinu.
The Goy Shak can be a yesod, but not it's a malchus, right? Or it can't be from a kaddish, gashmis of the world.
Not malchus gemur. You see, it is a malchus by the goyim, but it's not malchus Hashem. It's you see, like if a million Chinese people, walk in a war and just get shot, slaughtered now, line by line, but they're doing their job. Like, why do they do that? Why don't they just run away, go home? Why do, it's malchus. There's a midah of malchus in the world. This is, why do they care so much about the cause? They're philosophers. They're, it's midah of malchus Hashem put in the world. You see it throughout history. Unbelievable thing. It's the hepech of chaos, and you have it almost in every country, even in Israel. Even in Israel, there's a, they walk with a rhythm. Malchus is malchus, but that malchus has to go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Li'inyanenu, Yosef was yesod. You're right. So Yosef, being midos yesod, was able to be the melech al hagoyim. Chen Mashiach ben Yosef. Yirak lichbosh kol hagoyim b'milchama. That's what Yosef was, the satana shel Esav. He was the lahava. It's Yosef lahava. Listroif es Esav ki midasei hu lichvaya. Now let's understand here. Ki midasei hi lichvaya. What does it mean? Anybody know? Lichvaya.
Coercion?
What?
Coercion?
Coercion. Midasei hi lichvaya. So, let's do another couple lines, and I want to explain something to you. Avol Mashiach ben Dovid, different midah. That's all Mashiach ben Yosef. To touch up everything that we said, to define everything we said, all comes in one word, which we're going to explain. Ichkvaya. Dovid, Namar v'noa ro'elav kol hagoyim. It's not about him subjugating the goyim. It's about the goyim all coming to him and saying, we want to be part of Shalom HaMelech. The people are begging, can we be part of Klal Yisrael? Ein mekavlen gerim b'yemos Dovid. Because too much, you're not even coming l'shma any longer. Everybody was coming to be v'no arul of kol hagoyim. That's what Yeshayahu explained. V'az epach el alamim safa brura. There was real peace and clear diburim. Why? Kibidasai, because the midah of Dovid HaMelech hu yehapcha. So there's two concepts: is Yechvaya, Yehapcha. Throughout the Sifrei Kabbalah, Yechvaya, Yehapcha. Simply put, Yechvaya is when you discipline something, force something to stay in its place. You can imagine like you have something that keeps on springing up. So you put a book on it. Ichvaya. Ichvaya. That's what it's koifa. Koifa olav is hakli. Koifa. Yehapcha is when it's straight. Yehapcha can be a result of Ichvaya, or it could just be independent. But Ichvaya is when you're... So Yosef was the satana shel Esav. He was subjugating Esav. Beis Yosef lahava. Soyref is Esav. Mashiach ben Yosef is helping us with all the goyim that want to kill us. But Mashiach ben Dovid is not a love kol hagoyim. It's not a forced act. You're not pushing it any longer. How this comes out is really it's really personal and really pnimi, because in the world of Hasidus, so you have Ichvaya, or is like the Chabadniks like to call it Iskafia, and you have Yesod, which is Meduyik also in the Diktuk. So part of Yotze.
Is Ichbaya same notion as Kofen or Hagigis? It's Kofen?
Kofen. Kofen is never 100% there, you know. Kofen only in Harkigi is Kofen oisay actually over roitzani. It's davar kazeh, but a get b'kfiyah is not a get. A get b'kfiyah is not a get. It's not the Ratzon HaGomor. So in the this, by the way, this concept is almost the whole Tanya is written on this Yesod, Yesod. The concept of the Tanya is that you have a tzaddik v'toiv loy, you have a tzaddik v'ra loy, you have a beinoni, you have a rasha v'toiv loy, rasha v'ra loy. So, to oversimplify it, a tzaddik, what's tzaddik v'toiv loy? I don't know what that is exactly, but a tzaddik v'toiv loy is like a malach, no. But v'toiv loy, the lashon of Moshe Rabbeinu tzaddik v'toiv loy, tzaddik v'ra loy has to do why do the righteous suffer? Why do bad things happen to good people? Or Rosh Hashanah, why do good things happen to bad people? Even bigger kasha. But he's taking a different derech in this than that Gemara, and he's saying that toiv loy ra loy b'derech pnimi, and the pnimius has to do with you can be a tzaddik, but it can be ra lo. Your yeitzer is still there. You can be a tzaddik and you don't have a yeitzer there. You can be a beinoni. The Baal Tanya puts forth that nobody, Beinoni doesn't do any Averos. When the Chabadniks want to give the biggest shvach to somebody, they say he's a Beinoni Shel Tanya. It's like the Beinoni means you don't do any Averos at all. Elamai, Ma'bayah, you don't do any Averos, you're tzaddik. No, not a tzaddik. I mean, not a tzaddik Shel Tanya. Because the difference is, where's your Yetzirah holding him here. So let me just show you a little bit. I just brought my book.
What would they call Yosef?
So that's the point. So midos yesod can only be a tzaddik v'ra loy or a beinoni. Yosef didn't do any averos. Yosef was but there was strong struggle there. He wasn't above the averos. One could give him more virtue because of this. I'm not knocking him, but there was. I mean, he ran out of he ran out of the house. I mean, he was bin Nesayim. There was a struggle there. So he asks, okay, so you think would the Chavetz Chaim need to run out of the house or just have no shaykhus to the Zaver? I'm not talking about Chavetz Chaim 90. I'm talking about Chavetz Chaim Yosef's age. Yeah, what's I'm not even talking about what's better. I'm saying it's two different things. There's two different things. So let me just give you a couple of quotes. Zachisi, by the way, around the time of my bar mitzvah. So Lubavitch Rebbe asked me if I learned Tanya. So I said, yeah. He said, do you know any Malchus? I said, yes. So he said, can you say it? So I recited from Perek Aleph to Perek Chavav by heart for the Lubavitch Rebbe. So that's why, the only reason why I know it a little bit, because I had that last Chazar in the office of it.
That was 101 time.
Well, that was the 101 time. So Perek Yud, he says, הנה, כשהאדם מגביר נפשו הלקיס ונלחם כל כך עם הבהמס עד שמגרש ומברר הרע שבו מכל השמאלי. When a person's tov, the nefesh halikis, the godliness, the spirituality of the person, is so mitkaber and fights kol kach im habahamas ad shemegarish u'mevarer hara sheba. The land is clean. We're not having any longer any resistance. Sheba Michol Asmali, which is, as he points out before, on the left side. Ukmashikasav, like the Torah says, Ubiarta hara mikirbecha. No longer any ra there. Ein hara nepach l'toy mamish. It's not the pshat that the ra turned into toy. You didn't make a change in it, but you got rid of it. What's that? Nikra tzadik she'eino gomer v'tzadik v'raloi. So a person gets to the point, it's a little bit disappointing now. A person gets to the point where they not only have they disciplined and subjugated the yetzer hara, but there's no longer a discussion. We're at this point. I mean, is not anybody in this room going to go eat bacon and eggs, even if it smells good? It's not. We're not. That's not. There's no discussion for us. Other things maybe, like other chumrah, rapadot. We're not going to go eat bacon and eggs, right? Like there's no struggle there, but it could be no struggle. There's no discussion, but it's not misfire. There's still like a yetzer hara there, but it's not something I'm going to do. Or I'm not even because it's very dark. Tzadik v'ral and tzadik v'toy. I'm a tzadik. Eino ran nepach l'toy babish. That nikra tzadik she'einoi gomor tzadik v'raloi. Dahainu. Sheyesh bo yadayin ma'at mizer ra. Still has that inclination within him. Ella, and here's the key word, shekafuf iskafia. Ella shekafuf ubatel l'toiv machmas miyutay. It's unimportant in the sense, but it's important to realize that it's there, but it's squashed. Iskafia. It seems like I'm clean, and it's not there. If you talk about a tzaddik gomor, which nepach, listen to the words, nepach hara sheloi l'toiv, the ra actually becomes toiv, l'chein nikra tzaddik v'toiv lai, hu al yidei hasaris habegodim atzoim l'gamri mehara. Dahainu limais ma'oid b'tanuga l'mazet lisanik ba m'tanuga ispnei adam. Like you hate it. It's not even, you hate it.
Why does he just get rid of it? Why is it? It sounds like he's taking it and turning it to toe.
Yeah.
Why not
You see, we said
turn it away and then it's gone.
That's malchus.
which would be malchus.
Yeah, but that's what I thought we were talking about tzaddik v'tov.
And the tzaddik v'toiv
That would
loy,
be the.
it turns into
the real
toiv.
tzaddik, not the.
What do you ask? What would be better, to turn it around to make it into tov, or to get rid of it?
I'm wondering why, if he's talking about the tzaddik, the Tanya tzaddik, right? Then
Tzaddik v'toiv loy.
v'tov. So why would it have to have come from turning around the ra? Why not just completely just get rid of it? But why is it? For example, if someone was.
I don't think you have malchus unless it's preceded by yesod. It's no game. In other words, there's no malchus unless there's kabbalas all malchus. So there has to be an avodah there.
So somebody can't be born into a.
It can be, but that's not a big enough madrega. It's not for toivloi, it's tzaddik. Born a tzaddik, but it's not a tzaddik for toivloi, because it's not, you haven't been bahapach all the time.
So
See, let me say something. Right, Moshe is a very good example of all this.
Is he malchus?
Became
Malchus.
Yeah. The Tanya says a little later that, and that's really why I bring it, because it's ki yisrein ha'or min ha'choshech. So what does that mean, ki yisrein ha'or min ha'choshech? Or the words of the Baal Tanya, always quoted the Chovos HaLevavos, Baal Tanya says that ba'at midar doicha harbe min ha'choshech. So it's kind of interesting words, that you have a dark room, completely dark. You light a candle. So the candle is unusual because usually, we're used to displacement. So if you put an item into water, let's say, so the water will move away the space of that item. In the case of lighting a candle, the choshech is not moving away the space of the candle, it's moving away the space of the light. So ba'at mina or docha harba mina choshech. So you have a dark room, you light a candle, and a lot of light. It's no longer dark, it's light. It's not real light, maybe, but it's light, nevertheless. So ba'at mina or docha harba mina choshech. Now, is that, in your minds, is that iskafia or yeshavcha? Yeshavcha, this tzaddik v'raloi is iskafia. There's a tzaddik v'toivloi, which is yeshavcha, libi cholol b'kirbi Dovid also. So yeshavcha means that I've actually turned it around into a davar tov. Not I got it in check, not I'm under control. It's actually not there. There's no discussion. There's no struggle. What used to be bad is actually good. So if you light a candle in a room, if you just open up your minds to this for a second, so the light is there. But when the light goes out, the darkness comes back. It had no influence. So it's iskafia. So it's dechia. Had no influence. For heaven's sakes, I've had the light on in here for 3 days. Why isn't it staying out forever? How long do I have to keep it on? You turn the light off and there's no light.
So Mashiach ben
It's like the
David,
heaters in my house. doesn't last even 5 minutes later. It's cold again.
so Mashiach ben David has to have Mashiach ben Yosef within him.
Okay, that's yesod, malchus.
Yeah, has to have
So,
it within him.
right.
Has to have all the sefiras within him.
Right, of course, of course. But the leisle migarbe klum, the malchus is a change. It's not. Yosef was ki yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech. See, ki yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech. When you just reach Shlomo HaMelech, it sounds like yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech is or is better than choshech. That's what it sounds like. It's echuti. You got a choice to go to choshech, go for the or. Yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech. No, yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech. Meaning that mat min ha'or doicha harba min ha'choshech. That you can change the choshech with the or, but only as long as the or is on. So that's iskafia, and iskafia is the madrega of tzaddik v'raloi.
This is hinted at with the simon that motion or
With what? I'm sorry.
The simon they brought with the snake that the Paro's guys they could squash those powers also, make the stick snake. That's child's play. But the other things that happened that changed the nature of what could happen in this world, that was something that Moshe had.
I thought you were going to say something different. That you see that the snake of Moshe ate the snakes of Paro. Well, that is what you're saying. Meaning that there was a different one. One was having some kind of a shlit'a on nature. I don't think they were tzaddik anything, but even a kosing, even a machashev can have some kind of a shlit'a over nature, but so it's keeping things down. But you remove it, and it's popping back up. It's a spring. It's not going to work. But it's the bechina of tzaddik v'raloi. So midos yesod, don't know. I don't know if midos yesod is necessarily going to last forever unless it becomes malchus.
So something should.
By the way, this sounds all very esoteric, but it's really very practical. I mean, it's actually very very real because we all have our nisyonos. When you think of nisyonos or Yosef, I don't think that's really our nisyon so much. At least me, I'm old. It's so much the nisyon, but we all have our nisyonos. There's no. There's nisyonos. There's nisyonos. Some people have nisyonos of money. Some people have nisyonos of lashon hara. People nisyonos of midos and yesod. People have. We have our zachem. And you try to be in control. So you can walk into a conversation and say, I'm not going to. Maybe I talk too much. I'm not going to talk. But then you talk. So, or I'm not going to speak lashon hara, but then you do speak lashon hara. I'm not going to get angry, but then you do get angry. So this is the problem with. So even if you manage to get through the conversation without getting angry, let's say, so it's a midos habenani, kol hakavod, but you're still an angry person. And the problem with that is that it will come to roost because the anger will come out somewhere into the wrong place. It is a really way the Baal Tanya speaks about this at a very, very practical level. Is it really gone? So you'd say, well, like it worked. I didn't get angry, so it worked.
Are you expected to get rid of it? Look at Yosef HaTzadik.
Yeah.
Yosef HaTzadik.
He claims not everybody can everybody can reach the madrega benani.
Yeah, but Yosef HaTzadik, he didn't do it, according to the Rav. So how are we expected to get rid of our...
But that could be in...
First of all, Yosef HaTzadik. Tzaddik is only midos yesod.
I know.
Tzaddik yesod olam.
So I expect to be more than that. I mean, it's
No,
hard to...
no, you can't. No, not necessarily. But it's just maybe just knowing. You see, I'm just explaining that the problem is that there is a metzius of that ra still in there, and to my sensitivity, there can be an iskafia, but unless there's a yesod, I don't trust it. That's just my, and and certainly not myself, even other people. If people tell me like, oh, that's fine, it's all right, I'm a doctor, I don't need that. I don't need any kavod. Unless it's really a tzaddik, they need kavod. So
what about being a tzaddik?
No, but what happens is that the vater, then all of a sudden, boom, explosion. So, my point of view is that anybody tells me they're a vater, I don't trust them. Don't believe it. I'm knowing as if they didn't tell me they were a vater, because very few people can be mavater, MS. People can discipline themselves, they can control themselves, but it's still there. You can get maybe even from a Beinoni to a Tzaddik Barabba. But unless you really were mahapachet, as long as it's midos iskafia, which is extremely hard. I'm not taking away from the precious of the discipline of iskafia, but it's not yesod. It's not yesod. And like I said, you put out the candle, and the darkness is right there where it was a second before. Like nothing happened. That's the.
But isn't there, like Rav Dessler talks about in the Kudos and sefira, right? So once you can actually go through, get rid of that old challenge, so you can become tzaddik in that area.
You can change your.
The to a new one. So maybe he is mavater on that, but has new challenges now. Like why does he have to hold on to that old one? But
Okay. So and actually the Baal Tanya says that explicitly, that he says that you can be a tzaddik in one thing and not a tzaddik in the next thing. But where I'm saying is where the lashon of Rav Dessler that you're quoting, at the battlefield that I'm in, it can be mavater, but it's not there. So is it really? Do I really have it in the whole, or not? Is the question. He said that's in Parakid. Let me just show you quickly. In Parakid Beis talks about the Beinoni, and in the Beinoni he says, so the Beinoni could be like this, that like b'shas tefillah, or b'shas doing a mitzvah, or b'shas limud daraisa, learning Torah, az harash b'chalo hasmali kafu v'batul l'toiva mispashetes b'cholo ha'imani. You could be under, while I'm in it, I could be having a complete, even a turnover, even a hisafcha. Avo achar tefillah, when the candle goes out, b'istaklos hamoichin degadlos ein soy brichu, harei harach choizer v'nir b'cholo hasmali u'misavet taiva l'taiva so'elam hazevet tanuga. The taiva can come right back. Rakmim taiva comes back. So taiva, rakmim shaloi levadei mishpat amluchim b'amam shol b'yer eni yochel loitzir. He goes on to explain, and that's called kidduchsiv, like Shlomo HaMelech said, ureisi sheyesh yisrein l'chachma min hasichlos ki yisrein ha'ar min ha'choshech. Quotes the same pasuk. as Rabbi Tzaddik. Ki kamoi, and here's his definition. Ki kamoi sha'or yesh la yisrael v'shlit'a memshala ala choshech. That's what it is. Like while I'm davening, while I'm learning, while I'm in it, while I'm being inspired, I have the or, the lights are on. So it's ki yisrael ha'or min ha'choshech. Ma'at or gashmi doicha harba min ha'choshech. So here's logic. Ma'at or gashmi doicha harba min ha'choshech. Shenitcha mimeno me'amela. So my sichlus could go away at this moment. However, when those lights go off, that's the issue, if you will, with being a man. So all I want to be bar here is the two midos of Yesod and Yesod. I'm not judging them, I'm just saying the two midos here, Yesod and Yesod, which is the midah of Yosef Yesod and the midah of Dovid, which is Yesod. And if you look at it in terms of the Geula, that's a good mashal. The Geula is a Mashiach ben Yosef and a Mashiach ben Dovid. You can have a Mashiach ben Yosef that we feel, let's say we're sitting here, I'm not getting into the politics whether this is Mashiach ben Yosef, I'm just saying, Lamashal, that we're sitting here in a securely, we're learning Torah, like we have electricity and a kupat cholim and all the good tazachen here coming and going freely. What would happen if there would be no tzahal like tomorrow? It's scary to think, right? Without any. So the answer is we're in a matzav at best of iskafia. We've got everything under control. We've got those what do you call those? Iron domes, right? So everybody's got a gun pointed at their head. There's deterrents. So it's the whole world is in a matzav of iskafia. That's also something. It's also something. I mean, during the Holocaust, there was no iskafia either. But now there's an iskafia. Dovid HaMelech v'no'aru alav kol hagoyim. All those borders go down, and everybody puts their guns down, because that's a different madrega. It's a madrega of yeshabcha. Just enough with something here. We keep learning that tzaras is the oynish for lashon hara, and that's why, and a tzaras has to go chutz l'machana. And what Rabbi Tzaddik taught us in the last couple of weeks is that it's not stam. Like, okay, you got this onesh, like Hashem picked an onesh because of tzaras. You have to go chutz l'machana. So the onesh of the chet of lashon hara is a very, very deep chet. And the only way to get rid of it, the only tikkun for the lashon hara, is to go chutz l'machana and start with an iskafia program. And by the iskafia program, then you can come back to A'ikvia, like Yosef. You go to Mitzrayim and you come back and you can be the melech. But his malchus was all b'iskafia. His malchus. V'yakam melech chadash, the light went out. Asher lo yadas Yosef. It didn't make it that kind of a permanent effect. Next thing you know, a couple hundred years we're in Shibud Mitzrayim and we're Ba'abdus. It wasn't, but it was easy. It was easy to forget him as soon as he disappeared. As soon as he wasn't in their face, it was easy to disappear. So that's it's like an intimidating person. Everybody's nice to them and everybody gives them covet. But as soon as it turns around, like everybody's daggy of a talking lashon hara about him and going dafka against him. Like it's not such a good derech. This derech of iskafia. Havchos, people love you. So the Metzora goes chutz l'machana, not like the Zav, not like the other Tumas Mace. Has to go chutz l'machana because there's a Chatzar be'etzem, and now he's chutz l'machana. He doesn't fit into the Machana Yisrael any longer until he does this iskafia and works his way in. It's interesting. I mentioned this before. That it's interesting that with the symptoms of tzaras, so the symptoms of tzaras are that somebody sees a beher, a pachas, he sees something white on his skin. But all of those, the Rambam says, all of those things that the Torah speaks about in Parshas Tazria, they're all different levels of white. Saris, levanos, babuos, all those different white things. So white is a siman of tuma, ironically. And then it gets worse. And if it gets, he shows the coin puts him in the masker, then it gets worse and it becomes more loving, you're more tummy, more loving, more tummy. And then the Torah says, as the Gemara points out, that hafach kulei lavan tarhu. Hafach kulei lavan tarhu. Ein ben Dovid ba, says the Gemara, ash nepach kol hamedina leminos. So how, like the siman lavan is the siman tuma, and yet hafach kulei lavan is a siman of tara. Like, how could it be that it gets more tummy, tahar? So that's yesod. That's going from yesod to yesod. As long as you're behesker, so we're watching it, we're guarding it, we're holding it on the side. But if it's hafach kulei lavan, then that means that it's not a malchus. There's no debate in here in my skin between the lavan and the shachar. What's happening is that the hafach, yesod, hafach kulei lavan tarhu. So like there is this concept of sort of bottoming out, where you get to the lowest place where you say, oh, that's not going to happen anymore, and you lose it, you eradicate it. You're so sick of it. It's so gone. It's so messing me up that in the world of addiction, they wait for this. They wait for this moment. They cherish this moment. It's a great moment of horrible experience, because that's the hafach kulei lavan, and then that becomes gufa, a siman of tar. So the yesod is a very complicated derech, and it's a very difficult derech. But that was the midah of Dovid HaMelech. By the way, Dovid HaMelech also went through the challenges of Yosef. But at the end, he was able to say, Libi cholol b'kirbi.
So why didn't Yosef get there? Because he seemed he'd think he would be the greatest candidate to also go on to malchus, since he went through the.
On a personal level, I don't know, but in terms of the chronology of the world, his job in life, his tachlis in life, was to bring yesod into this world, and that's what he did. But yesod is with great resistance.
So it's passed on to the world once he leaves. And
Dovid HaMelech couldn't have done his malchus if it wasn't for Yosef doing his yesod. And he would have had nothing to do with yesod with, as you pointed out, unless there was the chesed gvur tiferes before him. You need this. You need every sphere. You can't just start off at malchus. So all of this was a build-up to Dovid HaMelech. But Dovid HaMelech was a hafach kulei lavan. So there was peace in the world. There was peace in the world. It's a little bit.
Counterintuitive.
It's counterintuitive, and it's worth grasping. It's worth grasping that the midah of Yiscafia, the midah of Yishaphah, midah of Yosef, the midah of Dovid.
So why did they turn black when the gates opened?
Why did what turn black?
The people. You said the people that
Hushcharu
yeah,
Pneim,
right.
Shulei HaKedera.
right.
Okay. Sorry, Dan. Wednesday's no shear. I'm Wednesday.